You were fortunate enough to get into the San Diego Comic-Con George Lucas panel that was Sunday morning. I was unable to make it. And this is all about his upcoming museum.
Yeah.
That's going to open. And did you find out when it's opening?
I've tried to find it. It's not even on the website. I know they're still building it.
Let's put up the website.
It's hard to miss it if you're ever down in Exposition Park.
Yeah, but the design of it looks like a spaceship, but it's a museum dedicated to story.
The narrative arts.
The narrative arts. You attended the panel. I understand you have highlights to show and commentary. So tell me about it, because I wasn't able to be there.
Just for a setup, I mean, the panel was about the museum. It was hosted by Queen Latifah, who happens to be very good friends with George and his wife. George was joined by Guillermo del Toro and by Doug Chang. And all they did was talk about the importance of why he feels the museum is important and why art is important. He said some pretty insightful things. So I pulled a couple of clips from the panel. Please don't mind the shaky camera, because I was zooming in really tight, and I'm not a professional cameraman. So let's just play a couple of these and just respond. I think he says some pretty interesting things. Whoops, sorry.
For 50 years now. And then it occurred to me that what am I going to do with it all? Because I refuse to sell it. I'm not one of the typical high art collectors who buys and then you come back 5 years later and you say, what happened to that painting you bought? That was so beautiful. Well, I sold it for $10 million. I made a lot of money on it. I said, I could never do that. It's not what I think art is. I think it's more.
Yeah, you get that he would never sell art for money.
I think it's more about a connection, an emotional connection with the work, not how much it cost or what celebrity did it or whatever. It's more a personal thing. And I don't think it's anything that anybody else can tell you. That's art. That's not art. It doesn't work that way. If you have an emotional connection, then it's art. If you don't, then just move on to the next painting. And it's the idea that people can tell you what art is and talk about it. I've discovered just from my experience of making movies and things that, other people's opinions don't mean much. The only thing that really means something is what you do and what you feel about it.
Yep, that's that clip.
I like that. Let me show. I actually found the website. When I say I found it, Atomic Glory. Found the website for the museum, which is lucasmuseum.org. I got on the wait list. Look at that. It looks like a starship. It literally looks like there are no right angles. There are no left angles for that matter.
Yes.
But doesn't that look like a spaceship?
Yeah, and it looks pretty amazing. I was there last year at the Natural History Museum, which is just in the background there, and it looks ominous. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's opening 2026. I'm on the wait list, so we'll see. But I, for one, can't wait. I've gone to see like Lucas collections at other museums, so I'm really looking forward to this. You have more clips, Alan.
Yeah, but to that one, what I found interesting was this idea that we talk about all the time, art and film and whatever. If you connect with it, no one can tell you you're wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let me just make sure I have this in the right.
Let's get the next clip. Why we tell stories.
Yes. No, actually, purpose of the museum.
Let's see it.
Is dedicated to the idea that stories, mythology, any kind of story, that is written to affect people and to build community is extremely important to society and creating societies and creating community. Art illustrates that story. And that's the right hand of building a community is you need the art to make it seem real. Even, back in the whether it's the Renaissance or the Stone Age, you'll always have a story that people believe it's mythology. It's not really true, but people believe it, and it binds them together with a common belief system. That common belief system is what is really important. And what we're doing here with the museum is to try to make people aware of the mythology that we live by, and at the same time, let them have an emotional experience looking at art that does tell the modern mythology. And as Doug pointed out, it's more of an exact science than people think it is, and it's a way. The art part of it is a way of making it really accessible to people and make it so they believe it.
Yep.
That's Guillermo del Toro you got there.
Yeah.
In the background.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right.
He's on
Any
the
thoughts? Or...
I just love it. Here's what I'm thinking. How long until they cancel George Lucas? He already had that one comment in some interview where he called Disney white slavers. I don't know that he was wrong completely. He wasn't off base, but he apologized for that. We saw what happened with Hulk Hogan recently.
69.
It's we want to. It saddens me how we want to destroy our modern heroes. George Lucas is a modern hero of mine. I moved to the West Coast because of George Lucas. That image from Star Wars of Luke peering at the twin sons of Tatooine, pondering his future, living in Nowheresville. That's how I felt living in the suburbs of outside of Detroit and Michigan, that I wasn't going to be able to achieve my dreams at all unless I went off to this. And I heard that George Lucas went to USC Film School. I wanted to go there and then couldn't afford to go. So I went to the campus. My mom took us on a trip to California to visit my uncle. And I went to the campus when I was 17 and bought every book I could afford from the film program. I bought every book and read them. And I made a list of the books I couldn't afford to buy. Ended up buying them and reading all of them because I thought, well, if I can't afford that education, the least I can do is read the same books as the rich kids that go to the school. At the time, I remember tuition was 10 grand a semester, which seems cheap now, I guess. But
10 grand is it's not 10 grand right now.
Yeah, let's see some more highlights, Alan. You have
all right, so this next clip is a story about Norman Rockwell's Thanksgiving painting and why he has an interesting story to tell about it, and he talks about why it's important, especially as a society.
Let's see it.
People you can do it with. And one of the issues, ultimately one is family, is that I believe, and I think most people believe, that most families are dysfunctional. You always have somebody in there who, okay, we'll kind of live with them a little bit, or girl. But the thing about the Rockwell painting that she's talking about is that it's a group of paintings are called the Four Freedoms. One of them is the freedom from want, and what it is a painting of mom bringing in a turkey, and everybody's sitting around the table all smiling and looking, and they're, the idea that Uncle Jim is drunk over the quarter, or Sally and Billy are going to get divorced because they're having a huge argument. All that is not mentioned. But what it does say is the modern mythology is not that the Indians fed the pilgrims and saved them from starvation, because that would have gone away a long time ago. What it's really about is family. And people go to Thanksgiving and inevitably say, oh God, I don't want to do this again. You know, it's going to be fights, it's going to be this, you know, I have to deal with my dad, I have to do it. You know, it's all kind of, oh, well, I guess I've got to. Well, you've got to, because that painting tells you that family is important. It's part of what we need to keep society together, even if it's tough. And that's, a lot of the art centers around those ideas of what we believe in and how important that is to us to have a community and to be able to build off of a common belief. And that's especially together today because of the fact that the world is becoming a smaller place. There are a lot of different common beliefs out there. It used to be easy because they were far away and it was hard to get to the, you know, interact with that. But now we're experiencing, in a lot of ways, the fact that there's a lot of different beliefs and there's a lot that aren't common. And the society cannot exist without a common belief system. And that's where illustration is vital to show you what that means in everyday life.
You hear what he said? I'm sure that's the end of that clip. It's a common belief system. That's kind of how we're kind of dealing with so much angst these days. So much. I mean, the we haven't talked about it, but the Sydney Sweeney jean ad, I've got great jeans. Sexy women were used in ads forever until recently, when you can't have a, let's say it, sexy white woman in an ad, and now that's a problem. I think people want to see good-looking people in ads and in movies. That is the truth. And when this is the common belief system has been broken, but I think that the people that are on the broken end of the spectrum are in the minority these days, and their voices are kind of amplified because they say stupid crap. Lucas, he's never been one. There was one interesting clip from Lucas at a classroom. He was doing interviews with kids, and he talked about some kid asked him a question. You could look up this clip about like the modern movies and racism and all that. And he said, look, I have nothing to do basically with the sequels, right? But the only racism in Star Wars was of droids. And where did that come from? The Clone Wars, where droids try to kill people from the Trade Federation who were using droids as murder bots. And clones took out the droids, and then clones had that was a whole other problem. But I'm just saying that was so clever of Lucas to think that out. Even in the first Star Wars movie, just called Star Wars, the droids walk in the cantina. We don't serve their kind here. That's racism against droids. It's very smart. And, well,
I mean, I also think to his point, we've talked about it when we first started doing this live stream, but there's this concerted effort to divide us. And he's saying that the thing that brings us together as a people, as humans, is this idea of family. That we have this common understanding, these common stories that we tell each other. That's why stories can go well beyond culture, because it speaks to us as people, of the experiences we have, and that's and to some degree that's what this museum's about, is to celebrate that the stories we've told each other, which is going to be coming up in our final clip.
Let's take a look at the final clip, Alan.
Okay.
Which really comes from a time when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my mom would put me to bed, and I asked her a question, and I said, Mom, if there's only one God, why are there so many different religions? And she really couldn't answer that. But I've spent the rest of my life trying to answer that. And I come to the conclusion that I believe in God, but I have no idea what God is. And I don't think anybody does. Because that's the thing where a very, very human nature is that it is, when you're born, the baseline is fear. And as you go through life, you're curious about things, but you're especially curious about things you don't understand, and therefore that's a threat to you. And as a result, you make up stories to make it feel good. Well, you know, what? It goes dark periodically. Why does it? What happens to the sun? It doesn't get day. It's just night. What happens if and back in the Greek times, they said, well, it's, you got Apollo is a god, and he has a chariot. It's on fire, and when it goes over, flies over, it's all daytime. Yeah. At night, it's dark. Oh, I feel better now. And it's true. It's stories that make you feel connected to other people, but it also gets rid of some of the problems you have about the fact that you have to know everything. And of course, one of the real problems we have is humans think they know everything, even though they don't know anything.
Yeah, it's interesting that what he says here is that we're all, the baseline is fear. We don't know what's happening in this world, and it's these stories. And in another part of this panel, he talks about science being, stories, not being hard truths. For example, there's this disease that's killing people. Let's stay in the house because that's the story we're being told. And let's take this magical medicine, and it won't affect us. Life is just a series of just trying to figure things out, trying to figure the mysteries of how the world works and what's happening. And that's, and again, that's what this museum is all about, is this collection of stories we've told. And yeah, it involves Superman, Batman, it involves Betty Boop and Charlie Brown. That's how we as a society, as the human race, have come together to try to explain what's going on in this world.
And I remember grappling with that very question that Lucas brought up. I had a friend who was Jewish. I had a friend who was Seventh-day Adventist church. I had friends that were Catholic, and I loved all my friends. We played, neighborhood games, tag and whatever. We ran through the sprinkler. We, sold lemonade. We rode our bikes, but they were different religions, and it bothered me. I remember, and I do also, we've talked about it, I believe in some higher power, but but the separation of religions always concerned me as like an 8-year-old. I remember questioning that. So this is it's a I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah. But again, it's the shared experience. I mean, this is what bothers me about what's happening in the world today. Again, there's concerted efforts to divide us.
Oh, if you could remove that, Alan.
Yeah.
Remove it from the screen.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay.
There we go. That's okay. I just want people to see, if you're joining late, this is the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, opening in 2026. lucasmuseum.org is the website to go.
Yeah, and if you want to know the exact location, it's at Exposition Park, which is by USC. The Natural History Museum is there. It's Museum of Science and Industry, and the Coliseum where the 1984 Olympics took place.
Yeah, and it does look like a spaceship. It looks very modern. Sorry, Alan, I interrupted you.
On top of it.
What's that?
I like that there's a garden on top of it.
No, I love it. I interrupted you. You were about to say it. My apologies.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that, again, there are efforts to divide us when the reality is, that's that's how it all is going to end if we continue to go down this road.